In this video, we're going to explore how we can make the legend interactive with two charts. So if I click on this one here, you can see here, we remove one of these legends here. And if I click again on it, it will show. But not only that, if I click here, and then I click here, it will show nicely as well. But if I click on this one here, it will remove only that one and will not interact here because this one has no index. So let's start to explore how to do this. So let's start to look how to make the legend show and hide two charts at once in Chart.js. So the first thing what we need to is to get our default code, which you can find here in chartjs3.com, getting started, this specific link here. This link is also in the description box. Once you're on the site, scroll down and just copy this entire chunk of code here. And if you want to understand what this code does, make sure you watch this specific video here that explains it all. So what I will do is I'll paste this all in there, cut out this title, and place that title in here. And then I'll just paste that, save, refresh. So now we have one bar chart, but we need to have two bar charts to make it responsive. So I'm going to do the following. I'm going to duplicate everything here. I'm going to post that nicely in here. And then what I will say here, this will be chart number 2, my chart number 2. This will be the config number 2 because this is config number 2. And then here the data, this is an important one. That's the only difference. We need to say it data 2. Alright, so now we have this one here. Then what I need to do here is, of course, data number 2 here as well. So if you're wondering why, well, this is basically a ES6 functionality where you're allowed to use a shorthand if the object name and the constant would be identical. But of course, in this case, it is not identical because it's data number 2. That's why we have that. Well, this one here has the data, that is fine. Before we save all of this, what I want to do is I want to duplicate here another div with the canvas, and of course give this an ID number 2. Save that, refresh. Now we have two items here. To make sure you can see a difference, I'm going to just give this a slightly different color. Here we put that on there. And then here, let's say 33, 33, 36. I guess I'll make everything 30 plus. Save that, refresh. There we are. So we have like different numbers here, and this maybe weekly cost or something like that, or I don't know, I guess service. I'll just give it something else because cost would not make sense. If this is sales, cost should not be that high. So anyway, we have this here. So what I want to do now is that when I click on this, trigger that one. So to do that, we need to first make sure that the canvas understands that when we click anywhere on the canvas, it registers the click. So let's start to work on that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in here enter, 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 is some multiples. Alright, and then in here, I'm going to start by creating a simple function. And this function I'll just call our click handler. And what I will do here basically is the following. All I want to do here is console log and track canvas 1, for example. So this would mean that if I would click on this canvas here, anywhere on this canvas, it will register the click. But if I click on this canvas here, it should not register a click. That makes sense. So to do this, I'm going to now activate a specific functionality. So I'm going to say my chart, because this is my chart is here specifically targeted to canvas number 1. Remember, we have two charts here, and this is the first chart with canvas 1. So then what I want to say here is the following. I'm going to say here my chart dot canvas dot add event listener, and then what I will register here is the click event, which I will from now on call the E, or at least in here you will refer to as the letter E for the event basically. So then when I do this, what I want to do then is I want to trigger a specific functionality or function, which is in this case click handler. So click handler will eventually have two specific parameters. I'll call them my chart because I'll be needing that, and secondly I'll call the E for the event, that's this one here. So that would mean here we have two parameters as well. We can copy it like this, like that, but I would just say here will be a chart, that will be the reference, and this will be click. So if I save this, let's see if this now works. If I refresh here, open up developer tab, refresh again so they will fit nicely in here. If I click here, no matter where I click, anywhere, it recognizes the click. But if I click here, it doesn't do anything. That is correct because we only pinpointed my chart, which is canvas number 1. So now we can start to work on it, and basically if I do this here, you will see now we get a lot of additional information that we need. We save this, refresh. If I click now, we can see here it registers the click event. It gives us a lot of information here, and all this information will be essential for us to figure out the X and Y coordinates. Secondly, here up, it was basically the canvas or the chart item where we get a lot of, or basically the chart object information. Basically everything from here, or from at least from my chart, which is chart number 1. So what I want to do first is I want to make sure I get the so-called coordinates. And the reason why is I want to make sure I click on this one here, and more specifically on the coordinates that is matched. We can only match this if this is index 0 and that is index 0. We can put another data set in here. Let's do that. But that one will not be matched because there is no other data set in here. So that's very important to understand. But I'm going to add that one in here. That's a nice exercise. So copy that, comma, paste. And here I'll just make this 33, 33, and then here save that, refresh. So we have these here. And this is data set number 2. This is our data set index 1. This is data set index 0. But index 0 and this is also data set index 0. Those two are aligned with each other. Or that's what we're going to do now. So what we're going to do here is the following. We're going to say here now, let's get the X and Y coordinates. I'm going to say let rectangle. And basically what I want to do is when I click on it, I want to get the X and Y position. But the first thing what I need to do here is I need to get more specifically the chart canvas. So to do that, I'm going to use here object destructuring first. I'm going to say a constant brackets equals chart, and then in here I'm going to say canvas. So that's the one I need, and because of this I don't have to say anymore chart.canvas, but I can just use the shorthand for canvas. So that's what we call object destructuring. So this is very useful, and later on I'm going to show you how useful and powerful that truly is. So we have this canvas, and what we want to do here is the following. I want to say a dot get bounding client rectangle, because what I want to do is when I click on it, what we really get is the coordinates including basically the entire screen here, or not even the screen, but this inner window. And I don't want that. What I really want is just only for the canvas. So what I need to do is I need to calculate the canvas coordinates minus the inner window coordinates, and then we get the original coordinates. So if it sounds very complicated, don't worry. If you follow along, you will see exactly how we get our exact coordinates, and then it will work nicely. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to say const x equals click, sorry, that should be click, and why click? Because of this here. Yeah, wherever I click, and then we say dot client x minus rectangle, which is this one here, dot left. So basically what we're really doing is if we click somewhere on the canvas here, we are calculating what would be the space here, because you look at the canvas here, and then we have still this space here. It will understand what the exact X and Y coordinates will be. Let's put this back here. Alright. So then we have this one here. Then what I'm going to do is exactly the same, but then for the Y coordinates. So we're going to say click dot client Y minus rectangle dot top. Once we have this, I'm going to say console log X, and then here also console log Y. Save that, refresh. And now if I click anywhere, you can see here we get the coordinates. And this is very nice because you can see here up in the top would be the 0.0, X and Y 0 coordinates. While the width here, if I go here, this will be X. If you look at the tooltip, the full width is 343.5. So that will be, if I click somewhere here, if I click on this, it should be here somewhere in the 340 plus. So 343, somewhere here. If I go here more carefully somewhere, I should get here the coordinate, although it's quite hard to figure out, but as you can see here, we get them. And the same here, if we go down here, we get the full height of it. So that's the most important one. So now we have the core item. So now it's time to get basically the measurement. What I really want is the following. I want the measurement of this here. If I click on this one, it should understand that this will hide, but only if we click on this specific item. If I click on this one, it will hide one of our elements, but not, this should not be triggered. Makes sense, because this one is not aligned. This is index 1, this is index 0. So, to do that, what we're going to do here is, I need to go back in here in the legend. So I'm going to say a legend, and I'm going to show you the coordinates exactly for basically the hitbox number 0, and this is hitbox 1, but hitbox number 0 on this ID canvas, and this hitbox number 0 on this ID canvas, we can start to match them. So what I'm going to do here, I'll say here console log, and then what I will do is, you will see here then the object destruction, I say just chart.legend, which is exactly basically, we could use legend already, but I'll just show you like this, and then I'm going to save that, but I'm going to make sure that all these other console logs are deleted. Save, refresh. If I now click, or click even anywhere, doesn't matter, click on this, or open up this part here, then you have here the hitbox, or the legend hitboxes. Basically, this is the coordinates. You can see here the left coordinate is basically this starting point here, left, and then here the width would mean from left, then this item here till here, that will be the right side. So basically left plus the width will be the end of the right side. Basically this is the border line. And you have the top, which is this here, it's somewhere here, so basically there's some 10 pixels top going down, that's here, and then the height of this is, you can see 12 pixels, so from top 10 plus 12 would be the bottom here. So let's start to work on that. So that's why I'm going to say here the following. In the legend, as you can see, we are in the legend. Let me say here the hitboxes. Where's the hitboxes? I just clicked on that. Here, legend, hitboxes. I'm just going to say this. And I'm going to remove these two arrays here. Don't do that one. And I have that one. There we are. So basically now, if you really look carefully, what I'm really saying is I want to say this, but we have done this now like that. So now I can just trigger this hitbox like this. So if I save this, you will see here now, if I click, I only get the hitboxes here. Beautiful. So now I only want index 0, because we don't have another index 1 here, so only index 0 is the target. So what we're going to do now is, first of all, let's give them all a proper name, so it's easy for us. And that's why you will see now how useful this becomes. So I'm going to say here, constant, and then we'll just say here left equals hitboxes, or legend hitboxes, index 0, because we're focused on index 0 here, dot, and we say here left. And that's basically the left one. So then what I want to do here is exactly the same. I'm going to say here right. But what is this one here? Remember, we don't have a right position, but what we do have is left plus height. Oh no, sorry, not plus height, plus width. Would indicate basically, here's the left starting point all the way to here. So we say here, let me say here, legend hitboxes. Make sure we have here plus sign, plus width. That is the right side. So the next part is the constant, I'm going to say top, which will be the legend hitbox top. And finally we have constant, and I'm going to say here this is the bottom, and the bottom is basically top plus the height, which is 10 plus 12. That's it. So we say here this plus, now we'll say here height. Alright, so now we have this one here. What we can do now is the final item, or at least one of them, is create an if statement. And this if statement will do the following. We want to make sure that if we click within here, then it should trigger something, or at least then what we want to record says, for example, okay, it works. If we click on somewhere else, it should not trigger anything else. So what I'm going to do here in the if statement, it's very simple. We're going to say x. If the x coordinate from wherever we click will be larger or equal to left, which is the lowest value on that part, and the the x coordinate will be smaller or equal to the right side, meaning that we are within this part here. So from left more, but right, which is here, no more there, but lesser than. Then we say here, and y value is larger or equal to top, and y value is smaller or equal to bottom. If this is the case, in this, and at that moment, what I want to do here is I want to basically check our status here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say chart dot, and I'm going to use here a specific command. Is dataset visible? This is basically a command in Chartjs that allows us to check if a dataset is being shown yes or no. So this will help us. So I'm going to do this here, and we say here relate to which dataset exactly? Index 0, because we have all of this index 0. So we want to do here console log that. So if I save this now, refresh, and make sure that the other console logs are removed. There's this one here, I don't need this. Save, refresh. If I click now, nothing happens here, but if I click here, you can see it's true. And if I click again, it's false. So you might say, why is it showing true the moment we click on it and it starts to hide? Because basically it should be false. Well, no. The reason why this happens is basically because when we click on it, before the event happens, it is shown. So that will mean then the event is being triggered, and then it will hide it. So that's basically here. So we have to think in the opposite direction or opposite way here. So what I'm going to do now is, that's basically the easiest part here, enter, and I'm going to say here now the following. I want to say here my chart, and I'm going to grab number 2, that's the number 2 chart, and then say here dot height index 0. So if this is true, well, we can save this one, and then let's see. If I click on this here now we're nicely aligned. But if I click again, it doesn't check here. Secondly, it doesn't really check if it is active or not. So that's why what we need to do here is basically this here. We should have here a additional if statement. And basically here we can check and say the following. And if our chart dot is dataset visible number 0 equals strict true. So if it's true, before the event it is visible, so after the event it will hide. So that will mean we set this now on hide. So if I save this now, refresh, if I click here, there we are. So it will only show this, but then of course I need to here a else if. And this is the only one right now that's quite tricky for me, that I need an else if. I'm going to copy this entire item, put it here. I say if it's false, in that case I'm going to copy this. Put it here, make sure you have curly braces here, and then we say hide. No, this will be show. And finally else, I'll say here do nothing. As simple as that. So this is the only thing I have to use this, but I'm sure there's probably a better way of refactoring it, but for now I don't have that one. So if I save this, refresh, click, click, there we are. So now we have it, but if I click on this one, what is exactly hiding? You can see only index, or this part 1, or this one here basically, the big, the second bar dataset, or basically dataset index 1. But this one here is nicely aligned if I click here. So what I want to do, even if I click here down, doesn't work. Now let's do this one here, which is exactly the opposite. So to do that, I'm going to copy this, put it here, say chart number 2, and then here, the click event handler, we can just say function number 2, and all I will do now is copy everything what we have here. I'm going to duplicate this entire functionality. You can just put it down here, say here number 2, and then everything else is still index 0 because they are the same values. And then probably here we could maybe refactor that one, but that's alright for now. I will ignore that. And next we have all of this here, but this here will say that one, and this one will be set on 0 as well because everything else matches. So if I now save this, let's check. If I click here, there we are. But if I click here, they're both responding nicely. And if I keep on clicking here, click this, click that, beautiful. And this is basically the way how you can combine the legend of one chart or with both charts here and make them responsive and work together. So if you enjoyed this and maybe you say, well, now we have this, but what about the tooltips? Well, guess what? That's also possible. I have a specific video that covers that exactly in here, where when we hover over the items here, the dataset, it will trigger the other chart as well. So I highly recommend you to watch that one, so you have them both together in a very interactive chart.